You know, what would an enlightened person do in this situation? How would an enlightened person live? And so there's texts that talk about this. So we'll look at some of those today. The first if you want like sort of one-stop shopping, though I think the longest sustained description of what an enlightened person would look like is in this text called the Ashtavakra Gita. Ashtavakra Gita. It's a text from the Vedanta tradition of India. I don't know exactly the date, 8th, 9th century, something like that. And it's just 21 chapters on what an awakened, liberated person, you know, would do, how they would act, how they would think, and so forth. So really cool text, actually. Roman numeral number 1 on in today's reading: the master of laziness. So we'll find out what that means in a minute. From the Ashtavakra Gita: the one who thinks I am the actor has been bitten by the big black snake of egoism. Drinking the nectar of confidence, say, I am not the actor, and be happy. So what the hell is this about? Aren't you an actor? See, so today the other part of today's title, Acting Freely, is wisdom. Which comes first, the actor or the action? Okay? Which comes first? I'm an actor. See, that's what he's saying. That's kind of ignorance to say, I am the actor. Because that connotes an independently existing actor. See? Right? I am the walker. And soon I will walk. Because I am a walker. Are you a walker before you walk? Right? So an independent actor would not need to walk. An independent walker, let's say. Just as an example, okay? You can plug in anything here. An independent walker would never have to walk because they're a walker already. Right? A walker becomes a walker when the walker walks. Right? Is there walking before there's a walker who walks? Okay? So there's no action independent of the actor who's acting. And there's no actor independent of the action that the actor is doing. Right? Things exist interdependently, not independently. So to say, I am the actor is a form of ignorance. You are not an actor. You are only an actor in relation to your action. No independent actor. So, the egotism comes, you know, it is a product of ignorance. The idea that I am, you know, an actor. I am a walker. I am a swimmer. I am, yeah, give me some more actions. I am a drinker. I am a eater. See, you are not that. In the Upanishads it says, Tat Tvam Asi. You are that. Tat Tvam Na Asi. You are not that. Okay? You are not an actor. Until what? You're acting. You see? So you say, I am not the actor, actually. I am not the actor. I am action. Right? Because I can't be an actor without acting. So you could equally say, I'm just action. It's just action. There's no I there. Okay? So we jumped into the deep end of the pool on the first verse. Who is stressed out? Who is busy? Exactly. You see? Who are you? I am busy. Well, who's the I that's busy? It's an illusion. There is no independently existing I that could be busy, any more than there's an independently existing actor who then acts. Next verse. I'm not going to go, we did a whole bunch of courses on this before, so some of you have already heard this rap, right? Remember? This is integrating some wisdom into the get unbusy business, you know, and remembering, you know, the sense of an I who is busy is illusory. It's an illusion. There is no I that's busy. And that's like quickest and easiest way to get unbusy, actually, is to recognize that the I that thinks it's busy isn't even there. Taking the goal as a path. An enlightened person understands that. An enlightened person understands that the ego is an illusion. That's what makes them an enlightened person. That's what makes them an awakened person. They have re-identified themselves as not a separate individual, cut off, atomistic I, but rather have identified themselves with the whole, with the cosmos, with all other beings. See, radical re-identification. All right, here's the verse that lends the title, Master of Laziness, to this section. Happiness belongs to the master of laziness. Happiness, sukha, belongs to the alasya dharina. Dharina means master. Alasya means laziness. This is in a sacred text, okay? This isn't a ancient, time-tested sacred. So what the hell? Master of laziness, what are you talking about? For whom even the chore of opening and shutting the eyes is tiring, and to no other. That's happiness belongs to the master of laziness and to no other. So what is he saying here? What's the point here? If we, any of us, had to be conscious, self-conscious about opening and shutting our eyes. If we don't blink our eyes, after a while they dry out, right? So if we had to think every time when the eyes started drying, I gotta blink. It'd be very, very tiring, right? To have to monitor that, to have to keep busy blinking, you know what I mean? Or to have say to the heart, beat some more, now beat again, you know. Right? These things happen unselfconsciously. We take action unselfconsciously when we blink our eyes, right? Or as I used the example the other day, driving a car. I mean, I don't know how many of you actually drive cars here in Singapore, maybe a number of you, but if you haven't had the experience of driving a car, after a rather short time of practice, you don't have to think about driving a car, actually, much, right? Happens automatically. It's second nature, it becomes second nature. So here's another way of talking about activity without busyness, is to make all activity second nature. Like blinking your eyes. Without the sort of, self-consciousness, without the planning, without the, intention, without the expectation, without all of that stuff that we bring into action, that makes it so tiring, actually. That makes busyness busy. Happiness belongs to the master of laziness. One who when acting thinks, this action is done by the body, not by my purified form, doesn't act at all. Doesn't consciously act. Doesn't self-consciously act. Okay? So it's just, I'm just acting. My body is acting. Just like my body acts when I'm driving a car. My body acts when I'm blinking my eyes. Not by my purified form, my shuddhi rupan, which is a very interesting phrase. Who the hell knows what this means? I don't really know. The purified form. But I'll take a guess, okay? We have a kind of a subtle physicality that we're not ordinarily consciously in touch with. We have a body, we have a gross physicality that we're in touch with a lot, actually. But there's a kind of a subtle physicality. They call it sometimes in yoga traditions the subtle body. The subtle body. And maybe that's what he's talking about here. It's the kind of body that you have when you're dreaming. When you're dreaming, you have a sense of being, incorporated, right? There's some physicality to you, right? But it's very subtle. And this is the kind of thing that they're talking about when they're talking about the subtle body in yoga. One who when acting thinks it's just done by my gross body, not by my subtle body, not by my deeper, physicality. Doesn't act at all. Neither agitated. So purified. What is purified? Purified. My purified form. Purified of what? And this kind of like points us also into like, well, what is the enlightened state? What is the awakened state? It's a purified state, but purified of what? And one big answer to that, well, you could say there's two big answers, which I'll talk about more on Tuesday. You're purified of what they call klesha, mental afflictions. Mental afflictions. So that was kind of the point of the meditation that we did at the first of the class. What would it feel like to have no kleshas, mental afflictions, to have nothing disturbing your peace of mind? So, how many kleshas have you had so far today? How many disturbances of perfect peace of mind have you had? 4 so far? It's only 4 o'clock, 5 to 4, so you have a bunch more time to have more. How many? 20? 150? Countless? More like countless, right? Every moment. Every moment. So freedom means freedom from mental affliction. Perfect peace of mind. The second answer to, purification. Purification of mental affliction. The second answer is purification of karma. Of karma. Karma in all the Indian tradition, Indian-based traditions, Hinduism, Buddhism, yoga, is not the answer, it's not the solution, it is the problem. The problem is karma. So why is karma a problem? Compulsion to act. It comes from karma. That's kind of what karma is, actually. Karma is habitual, habit. So because we've created these kinds of karmic grooves or habits, we repeat the same mistakes over and over and over again. That feeling that I have to do this comes from habit, from doing it that way over and over and over again in the past. Then in relation to the future, we are trapped in a suffering life by karma. So what, by action you could say, of a certain sort. So action done, okay, you ready for this? Action done with intention creates karma. All action done with intention. It doesn't really matter, ultimately, what you do with your body or what you say with your speech. What matters is what was the intention behind it, because that creates karma. And karma can be good or bad. If the intention is, nice, friendly, kind, compassionate, and so forth, and then, you act or you speak with that intention, that creates good karma. And if your, intention is nasty and selfish and, angry and hostile, that creates bad karma of, whatever you do or say, forced by that intention, motivated by that intention. But all action done with intention, whether good or bad, traps us in samsara. Okay? So better to do good karma than bad karma. Okay? Nobody gets to leave here and say, Lama Marut said that I don't have to do good karma anymore because karma's bad. All karma's bad. Good karma is better than bad karma. Okay? But the point is to get rid of all karma, to be free, purified of all karma. So how do you do that? What would action that did not produce reaction, karmic reaction, look like? How could we act freely, in other words, without trapping ourselves in the continual cycle of having this compulsion, these habits, good or bad karmic habits, to act unintentionally? Okay, you could say karma concentrate, like they used to have Coke concentrate. Do you still have that? The concentrated form of karma is intention. Sankalpa, they call it, in Sanskrit. Sankalpa. Anytime you have an intention, you will create karma that forces you to re-experience it, to reap the fruits of it. So how do you act freely without creating that karma? Well, you act without intention. Without intention. Here's another way of talking about action without intention. Action without expectation. Action without expectation of reaping the fruits of action. The phala, the fruits. Okay. Action done Here's another way, okay? I'm trying to be a little provocative. Am I being provocative? Hopeless action. Okay, hopeless. So you act without hoping that I'll gain something out of this, I'll reap some benefits out of this in the future. Or here's another way of talking about it. Action done for its own sake. Action done for its own sake, without intention of, oh, this is going to pay off for me in the future, or, I'll really get ahead in the world now, or this will really work out for me. Is it without intention? And that's how enlightened beings act. Enlightened beings act without intention, without hope, without expectation, without futuristic kinds of thought. They act fully and presently, in the present, fully. In the Buddhist text, they say that Buddhas act spontaneously. They're constantly acting, but it's always spontaneous. Not like saying oh my God, I'm a Buddha. I got to help a squirrel over there on Alpha Centauri. Get into the Buddha-mobile, and go with the ladder to the squirrel that's, in a tree suffering. Not like that. No, spontaneous, no forethought. That's how they describe it. That's how they describe enlightened action. No forethought, totally spontaneous and continual. So that's unintentional action. No intention behind it. That's enlightened action. Neither agitated nor pleased, the one who has abandoned activity. Well, what does abandoned activity mean? Abandoned purposeful activity. Abandoned intentional activity. Abandoned egotistical activity. These are all sort of like synonyms. See, if you have an intention, there's an I who has an intention. You see what I mean? Right? There's always an ego behind intention. There's always an ego behind purpose. I have a purpose to this action. Well, there's an I there. So the one who has abandoned, you could say egotistical activity, is a non-actor. They're an actor who's not really acting in the ordinary way, a non-actor. It doesn't mean that they're not doing anything. That's not what a non-actor means here. Not to do nothing, but to act without, and then as the verse says, without expectation or doubt. The mind of the liberated one shines forth without expectation. Nir asha. Nir asha means without hope, without desire, without expectation, and without doubt. Gata sandeha. Without uncertainty. You see, every time we act with intention, there's a certain uncertainty to it, isn't there? You don't know for sure that your intention is going to actually come true. The intended action, you don't know if it's actually going to pay off for you. There's always doubt there. But spontaneous action, there's no doubt. In spontaneous action, action done without intention whatsoever is done without doubt also, you could say, right? Without expectation and without doubt. Have you heard this expression? Expectations are disappointments in training.
Yeah.
Expectations are disappointments in training. Does that strike you as true? Can you predict the future? Can you micromanage reality like that? I will do this and then that will happen. How's that worked out so far? I mean, we all act like that, actually. And then, so, this is an ordinary way of action. We act in order to get a response, to get a result. We always do this. And then people come to, spiritual classes, come to yoga studios, and they hear about karma. And say, oh, karma. So that's how things are really working. Things are really working about karma. So if I can figure out how karma works, then I can get everything I want. Then I can control reality. And this is a very, very naive understanding of karma. Karma is enormously complex. It is so complex that it is really unmanipulatable. Which doesn't mean that you shouldn't do nice things. Try to create good karma. But you can't predict the exact result of your good karma, any more than you can predict the exact results of your bad karma. That's all ego. That's all ego and the attempt to control, which the ego always loves to do. I mean, that's kind of the ego's job. Cindy says often the ego's job is to be outraged, is it? To be outraged? But you could also say that the ego's job is to try to control everything. Try to control the present and the future. And so that's action filled with expectation. Filled with, anticipation or expectation or, the idea that I can figure out if I do X, then Y will happen. And that keeps us suffering, partly because it keeps us disappointed. Expectations, disappointment, and training. So we suffer as a result. Oh, that didn't work out exactly as I thought it would. And in fact, kind of nothing works out exactly like you thought it would. Does it? Exactly? So here's another section. Action without an actor. This is from the Bhagavad Gita. All actions are done just by the constituents of nature, the gunas, for those of you who know. But one who is deluded by the ego thinks, I'm the doer. It's just all, this is a technical term in the Bhagavad Gita and other texts, gunas, the constituents of nature, but you could think of this as karma, or causation in general. All actions are done by the, coming together of countless, causes and conditions. Countless causes and conditions come together to, and then we do, with every particular action is forced upon us by countless causes and conditions, right? Anyone, you could use, causation is causation is another word for karma. Causation is extremely complicated. You could say that, everything that has happened in the cosmos has brought us together here today. Have you all heard Cindy's "Can you see the cloud in the table" riff? Yeah. Well, for those of you who know, I just referred to it. Greatest hits. I mean, anything, any person, any action, is the end result of countless causes and conditions. Right? So, but then the ego says, no, I did that. I'm the doer. But Arjuna, one who knows the true nature of the distinctions between actions and constituents, and who thinks constituents depend on other constituents, is not attached. One who knows that, every cause depends on other causes. Ad infinitum. You know that term? Ad infinitum. Every cause depends on another cause. And this is a Hindu text, Bhagavad Gita, but that's Buddhism also, isn't it? That's what interdependence means. Dependent origination or something like that. Everything is connected to everything else in a kind of an unknowable way. In an unintelligible way. Our minds can't figure it out. It's too big. It's too big. You can't think infinite. You can't even think infinite, right? There's nothing to hold your mind around the concept of infinite, or countless, or beginningless. You see, these are all kinds of ways of saying you can't know them. You can't figure it out. One who sees that all actions are actually done only through the workings of nature, and thus that the self is not an actor at all, truly sees. Here he's talking about the true self. So, there's a difference between the ego, or the small self, and who we really are, our deeper nature. Cindy's been kind of pointing to this repeatedly. In Buddhism, they call it our Buddha nature. Our Buddha nature. We all have Buddha nature. In the Hindu traditions, they tend to call it Atman, our true self, and they often capitalize the S, because it's not the little self, it's the real self. It is who you are when you stop being who you think you are. Okay? It's who you are when the self-consciousness drops. Because the only self there really is a self-consciousness. Is the idea of a self. The only little self there is. It's the idea of the self. So we have to keep that. If we don't keep that idea going, then there is no little self. There is only the big self. I wrote a whole book about this called Be Nobody. When you stop being somebody, who are you? See, when you stop keeping the ego, the little ego alive, you don't just drop out of existence, but you get in touch with something deeper, something bigger, something cosmic, actually. You get in touch with your true self. And we long to get in touch with our true self. We long for that. This is one of the reasons why we long for deep sleep. Yeah? You ever gone a couple of nights without a good night's sleep? Yeah. And then you start really longing. Oh my God, I really wish I could get to... Well, why? Because you don't have to be you anymore. Right? In deep sleep, you can drop the burden of the ego, of the individual small self, and relax. So getting in touch with the big self is the ultimate relaxation. See? Ultimate. This is why we like to lose ourselves in hobbies. See? So we can, stop being ourselves for a little while. Lose ourselves in a good movie or a good book. Lose ourselves in orgasm. These are the most pleasurable experiences. The most pleasurable experiences that we have in life is when we can stop being self-conscious. When we can lose ourselves in something bigger. One who sees that all actions are actually done only through the workings of nature, and thus that the self is not an actor at all. The true self, the deeper self, the capital S self, doesn't act. It's calm, peaceful. There's no action done at all, actually. Whether he is seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, shopping, walking, sleeping, listening to iPods, breathing, the disciplined one who knows how things really are would think, I'm not doing anything. The real me is not doing anything at all. So that's action without an actor. Action without desire. Another way of talking about, intention, expectation, and so forth is desire. I want. I act because I want, isn't it? That's intentional action. That's karmic action. So can we act without desire? The wise man, this is from the Ishtavaka Gita again, the wise man, free from the duality of existence and non-existence, which is a long story, free from all dualities, content and without desire. So a contented person, a happy person, is a wise person. Wisdom and real happiness are the same thing. There's no unhappy wise people. Okay? There's lots of unhappy smart people. All you need to do is go to the university. Go to you'll find them all thick on the ground. Smart people, really smart people. Or probably, the banks and the corporations and, like that. Here in Singapore, lots of really smart people, very unhappy. Right? So wisdom means a gauge of your relative wisdom is your relative happiness. The happier you are, the wiser you are. And the wiser you are, the happier you are. Because they are two aspects of the same thing. They say that in the yoga traditions, they say that when the inner body stuff, okay, when the energies get into the central channel, all of this kind of it's kind of metaphor. But when the energies are centralized and concentrated, you have what they call indivisible bliss, voidness, wisdom. Indivisible means you can't separate them. Indivisible means you could also say they are two aspects of the same thing. What? Wisdom and bliss. Wisdom and bliss. I should have gone like that. Because they are the same thing. So, content and without desire. Nirvasana is actually the word here. Vasana, as Cindy was, I think, sort of mentioning, is another word for karmic predilections, karmic habits. So nirvasana, free from that, without desire, does nothing, even though in the eyes of the world he is an actor. Okay, so they keep doing stuff. In the eyes of the world, they see, oh, you know, this is a person. In fact, you could even say, they look like an ordinary person. An enlightenment, which is kind of like something to put in your pipe and smoke, okay? Because I think a lot of us who come to the spiritual life, we have this fantasy that, you know, an enlightened person would have to look different. You know, they would have to be maybe golden, you know, and very, like, maybe they have a very smooth forehead. No, we have all these, like, fantasies of, like, how an enlightened person should look. And this text, which is a really amazing text on the enlightened state, on the awakened state, says, oh, you just look like an ordinary person on the outside. It's not, enlightenment doesn't change you on the outside, it changes you on the inside. So they would look like just an ordinary person going to work, you know, getting on the bus, getting on the subway, cleaning the floors, you know, mopping the kitchen. Just like an ordinary person on the outside. It's the inside that changes. For the wise man, there is no stress. This is a little bit of a loose translation of a word, dur grah. Dur grah means seizing badly. Dur means badly, grah means seizing. So you could say difficult to obtain, something like that. Yeah, it's stress, right? Difficult. It's a sense of difficulty. For the wise man, there is no stress, either in activity or non-activity. Happy all the time, whether action or non-action. When it's time to act, he acts and stays active. So it says, you know, quite clearly that there are times when, you know, it's important to act. You know, have to go to work and so forth. So I go to work. Happy. I don't have to go to work. Happy. Either way. See, happy in, you know, whether in activity or non-activity. 4, action without expectation. Expectation of what? What do we expect when we have expectation in our actions? We expect a certain result. We expect a personal result, actually. In our actions, when we do something personally, we expect a result will come to us personally. So that is not freedom. That is constantly creating more chains. You know, we're talking today we're really going for it, okay? We've got it in 5th gear now. They got them 6 gears now, I guess. So, you know, we've talked a lot in the last 3 sessions about like little practical things that we can do to feel less unbusy. But the ultimate way to feel unbusy is to start acting like an enlightened person. Taking the goal as a path, practicing enlightened action. So, you know, how are you going to reach enlightened action unless you practice it? Right? You can't go from unenlightened, enlightened. You got to practice it. You got to get used to it. You got to get used to what it would feel like to be free, to be a free person, to be an enlightened, awakened person. Action without expectation. This is really an important verse from the Bhagavad Gita. Your prerogative. The word is adhikara, which is a very complex word in Sanskrit. It means, among other things, your authority, your claim, the authority that you have. I tried prerogative. You all know what prerogative means? Your prerogative, your authority, your right, you could say, your ownership, is over your actions, not over any of the results. You can't control the results. You can't control it. What you can control is your action, not what you're going to get out of the action. So what's the point of expectation? See, expectation is the idea that I can't control the results. And the Gita says quite clearly, no. Your prerogative is over your actions, not over any of the results. Do not let the results be the motivation of action. But do not be attached to inaction either. So get busy, in the good sense, okay? Keep acting, right? Do your duty. Take care of business. You know, make a living for yourself. Help other people. Act in the world like that. But don't worry about what you're going to get out of it. Okay? Did I mention this before? There's in here, maybe I did or maybe I didn't. I'll say it again. There's an old saying, I think it is attributed to Seneca, old Roman guy, philosopher guy. Virtue is its own reward. You've heard that saying before? Virtue is its own reward. Right? These are kind of the same sentiment here. Don't worry about the results. Do the right thing now. See, do the right thing now. If you're doing something now for a future result, it's ego-bound, right? It's not selfless. It's not really virtuous then. So here's my amendment to the saying: virtue is its own result. Virtue is its own reward. It is only virtue if it's its own reward. See, if it's done for if virtue is done for a reward later, what am I going to get? It's not virtue at all. It's egotistical, selfishly driven action, right? So do your duty. Do what you know is right to do without expectation of reward. That's enlightened action. And that's also action that does not involve karma, does not produce karma. Sometimes they make a distinction in Sanskrit between karma and punya. Punya means merit. Karma means, reward, action, in the sense of result. See, so every action that's done with personal intention, with the intention to what am I going to get out of it, creates karma. Action done without expectation of personal reward is sometimes called merit. Meritorious action. And you don't lose that, by the way. You can't lose that. Partly because you never claimed it. You see? You never claimed any merit. And you're doing it for its own sake. Action for its own sake. Giving up attachment. Perform actions as a practice of yoga, Arjuna. This is karma yoga. For those of you who know the Bhagavad Gita. Perform actions as a practice of yoga. Be the same, whether you're successful or unsuccessful. Whether, the immediate, consequence of your action seems to work out or not work out. Just